The UK insurance industry is responsible for investments of £1.7 trillion, which means this industry's representative body, the Association of British Insurers, looks after the interests of a large proportion of institutional investors who potentially wield a lot of influence over the UK economy. We've come along to the ABI to ask its Director General Otto Thoresen about his views on the future of insurance in the UK. Do you think there is a disconnect between the potential influence of ABI members, government actions and public perception?
The way I see this is the insurance industry operates in two very distinct ways. On the one hand, we operate with consumers to provide certainty, to help them deal with the consequences of unexpected events. That's the whole purpose of insurance. On the other side, because we effectively gather assets and look after trillions of assets that people have given us to manage, we have a dual responsibility there too. One is to drive growth in the economy, potentially through infrastructure investing and the like, and the other is to ensure that companies in which we invest are well run. So there are two very distinct dimensions to the role of the insurance industry. And that, if you look at those through the government's eyes, clearly they have a strong interest in the consumer view, because consumers are voters, of course. And on the other side, if they want to generate growth in the economy, the role of the insurance industry is critical. So I think the context of that is very clear. What sometimes hasn't been very effective from the industry's point of view is the way that we explain and articulate our purpose on each of those two issues. And I think that potentially explains some of that perceived disconnect.
ABI members recently demonstrated their shareholding power when we saw Bob Diamond, Chief Executive of Barclays Bank, accept a reduction in his bonus. Is this a clear sign of shareholders exercising their corporate social responsibilities, or does it simply come down to the fact that value of shareholdings has fallen in the current economic climate?
I think the whole question of insurers and institutional investors' engagement as shareholders, you have to put it in the context of the investment case. As I explained, the role of the insurance industry, once it's given these assets to manage, is to look after those assets in the right way for the investors, for the end consumers who have entrusted them with us. And that's about investment growth, it's about achieving returns for our pension policyholders and for the general insurance policyholders. And that growth comes from companies being well run. So always when you look at the way investors and shareholders engage, for me it's about the investment case. And it's about how are those companies performing and how are the returns that they're generating being divided. So if we move to the banks, the argument from the insurance industry about bank investments was about the investment case. And the view we expressed was one of saying the value that's being created in the banks is that the division of that value is out of kilter. Too much of it is going to executive and employee remuneration, and not enough is moving through in dividends to shareholders. And that investment case isn't about social policy. The insurance industry is not elected. The insurance industry is an industry which has responsibilities to its customers, and that's how we're trying to engage with shareholder activism, if you like. Now that isn't something that you only do in the bad times. That's something that has to be done all the way through in the good times too. And it's not just about executive remuneration. Far more powerfully for me, it's about board effectiveness. Because the reasons that businesses fail, whether they're banks or any other type of business, is usually because boards have not been effective in managing and balancing up their responsibilities for oversight of strategy, succession planning in firms, the operational effectiveness of firms, risk management in firms. And it's the engagement of shareholders with the boards of companies to demonstrate good governance and good board effectiveness that's going to lead to better outcomes for our customers, but also a better outcome for the UK economy. So I think that's very straightforward, and it's not just an issue for when share prices have dropped.
So what steps need to be taken to lift consumer confidence in insurance products?
I think this is an absolutely massive issue. I mean, my starting point is I've been in the industry almost 40 years now. I mean, I'm passionate about the industry. I think it has a fantastic ability to help people deal with unexpected events, to prepare themselves so that when something happens that could potentially set them back, they're able to accommodate that and recover far more quickly than would otherwise be the case, whether it's property damage or flooding or a motor accident or an illness, or, I mean, there are just so many aspects of life where the insurance industry can help. But the problem with the insurance industry and the nature of what we do is that it is quite a technically complex area. It does have a huge amount of legal definition around liability and how that works. Some of the products and services we offer will be created in one era, and they have to last for 20 or 30 years. So not only is the economic environment different by the time somebody comes to use them, but social norms have changed, political norms have certainly changed, and what was seen in the 60s as acceptable practice, by the time you get to the 90s or to the current era, everything has changed. So how can you manage the ability of these products to adapt and develop and continue to be relevant for people as those generations of people and their expectations become quite different from the environment in which these things were originally created? So you have that contextual difficulty to begin with. But within that, there are absolutely things we can do. And the things we must do, most of them are actually relatively simple. For a start, it's about clarity in terms of communication and explanation, so that people understand what a product can do and what it doesn't do, where their expectation of what it can deliver for them is clear, so that when they choose to take advantage of that, they aren't disappointed. And those experiences are what will build trust. The second point is when you make a mistake, when you get something wrong, when you mess up, don't spend months trying to persuade and argue that you haven't messed up. Face up to the reality that you've messed up and then put it right. And I think the more times that people can have those sorts of experiences, I think the more that the trust will begin to come.
Otto Thoresen, Director General of the Association of British Insurers, thank you very much for talking with us.